Welcome back to another episode of the Persistence Project, where we talk all things strength training from mindset to max effort. I'm your host, Rob Allen. I'm a strength coach and a multiply powerlifter, and I love talking to other lifters, coaches and practitioners within the strength space about how and why they do what they do. This podcast is only possible due to my awesome sponsors, Jacked and Juiced Apparel, who provide awesome training apparel for all your heavy lifting needs, East Coast Supplements in Dubbo, who provide all your supplementation needs for heavy lifting, and Hunter Performance Physio, who have just come on board as a major sponsor for the podcast. I can't stress enough that this wouldn't be possible without them, so I thank them very much, and I encourage you to go into the show notes, click on their Instagram, give them a follow and a like, and check out what they do. Likewise, if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe and comment. All that stuff helps drive engagement and grow the podcast, which is a good thing for me, obviously, but a good thing for getting the message out there and showing this information off. So today, my guest is Courtney Miller. Courtney is the head coach and owner of Newcastle Barbell here in New South Wales. She's a powerlifter who's been competing for about 10 years with a best raw total in sleeves of 412.5 in the 76 kilo class, and the best single ply total of 475, also in the 76s. She's competed as a junior at IPF Worlds in 2016 and represented Australia a few other times in powerlifting. She runs APL meets here in New South Wales, and as I said, opened Newcastle Barbell in about 2022. So Courtney, welcome to the show.
Hello.
Thanks for coming on. So where I always start these is I like to find out what originally got people into the gym, like how they found physical culture and what was the kind of impetus before you started competing. So before you started powerlifting, before all of that, what was your first experiences of the gym?
So I was an elite athlete, athletics, sprinting and jumping, and my high jump, long jump coach got me training twice a week in the little athlete gym above Hunter Athletics Centre at Glendale. So really tiny gym.
Yep.
He taught me split jerk and everything off of those little step blocks, and I loved it. And then also for soccer, I was pretty high up in soccer, so I trained with the Jets for a while when I was younger. I wasn't in the Jets, but trained with them, and they did gym a couple times a week too. I had a bit of a hiatus. I had a hernia, and then had a couple of years of partying, and then started CrossFit for a couple of years. I was in that cult. I was really into it, and I did a few comps with that, and then I didn't know the difference between weightlifting and powerlifting, and one of the coaches sort of branched off to start a weightlifting gym, and I wasn't very good at gymnastics movements, but I knew I was very strong, so I went with him to do weightlifting. I did weightlifting comp and then weightlifting states. And while I was in the preps for that, I met a powerlifter, and I was dating him, and he introduced me to Max Bristow. We trained at his garage gym, and he said, "Courtney, do you think you'll represent Australia for weightlifting?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Well, I think you will for powerlifting." So I finished that last states comp, which I won, and then switched to powerlifting, and then a year later I went to Worlds, and then later that year to the Asia Oceanias as well.
Yep.
And broke some deadlift records back then,
Okay.
the Oceania records, yeah.
So when you first got into the CrossFit and stuff and realised you weren't so much into the dynamic movements and you were strong, what was that feeling like, and what did you, when you first then transferred into powerlifting, was it like, oh, well, this is the sport that I've been missing,
so when I went to weightlifting, I was like leaving the sessions all really aggravated, and because you fail a lot.
Yep.
And I think I was too mobile in the shoulders, but not mobile enough in the ankles or the hips for weightlifting.
Yep.
And I wasn't speedy enough. So like I was strong, I could but then it wasn't technically good enough to pass the lifts. So then when I switched to powerlifting, I was like, oh, this is better. Like you got a bit more time to think about your technique than you would with weightlifting. Like it's very fast. It was just powerlifting. You can grind out a rep.
Yeah.
Can't do that with weightlifting.
No, you have to get it in. It has to be in the right spot,
in
the right
split
time.
second, yeah. So it was very easy transfer over. Plus, I always liked sumo.
Yeah.
And I always tried to ask if I could do sumo, but they wouldn't let me, like the WODs. So when I switched over, like my conventional PB was 125, and then I just tried sumo once and did 145. So, and that was at about 69 kilo body weight.
Yeah, right.
So it was pretty easy transition.
Yeah. So first competition, 2015. Was it love at first competition?
It wasn't, because the night before I had a migraine, and I think the week before that I had bronchitis, so I was on antibiotics, and then I had a migraine the night before, so I nearly bombed. You probably see I only got my third deadlift.
Yeah.
I had failed 2 deadlifts, so, but it was the second competition where it was like love, where I did it at City Strength and I did really well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I think everyone has that one competition where you either do well or don't do well, and like that's kind of irrelevant to the point, but you kind of like, oh, this is the sport for me.
Yeah, it was that second one. That's the one I qualified for Worlds in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 2015 and then 2016 straight to Worlds. That Worlds was huge. It was like 600 lifters or 500 lifters.
Yeah, because they didn't split ages.
What was that like?
It was so good. And there's a video of my third deadlift, and they thought I was failing it. And they're like, oh, my God. And the commentating was great. Yeah. Everyone was screaming. It was good because there was so many lifters. They were all in the crowd. So we'd all go watch each other lift, like everyone, because there's nothing else to do either. It was like summer. It was dry heat. Yeah. And the only thing to do was to go to one of those big stores or watch powerlifting. Yeah. So, yeah, it was pretty great. Yeah.
Well, it's pretty awesome experience to have so new to the sport. And then you've managed to stay in the sport for, like, you've competed as recently as last year.
Yes.
Yeah, and you've managed to acquire yourself an injury at the moment, I believe.
Yes, I was supposed to compete in March, but I was having pain in my hip and back to the point where it was keeping me awake, like early hours in the morning. It was waking me up, which I sleep like a light switch, so that really affects me. Yeah. And then I got up and I was thinking, I don't think I can do this comp. I think I'm going to really hurt myself, and then dropped a 25 kilo plate on my toe. Oh. That morning, 2 hours later. Yeah, sealed the deal. So the toe's fine now. I had to have surgery and everything, but I've just had cortisone in my SIJ. Right. So I'm on a rehab program now from Jess. Yep. Right. Yep. Yeah. Awesome. So hopefully build back up.
So a lot, and especially these days, you find a lot of people come into the sport, they don't stay very long. Particularly younger people come in. There's a much higher turnover now that the sport is more popular. Mm-hmm. What's kept you in it for a decade?
Well, I guess because it's my business too.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I've always liked to compete, so I've just sort of found the sport that I can stay in. Yeah. And being an individual sport, you don't have to rely on anyone else either. Like, I got a bit sick of soccer as I got older because they would stand around laughing late at night, and I'm just like, I don't want to come out here and train and in the cold because of winter sport and have people just playing around. I want to be competitive. Yeah. So even with injuries, it's like I knew I could come back from them, the right physios and stuff. Yeah.
Do you think having a sporting background as a youngster kind of helped you see that?
Changes your mentality. Yeah. Like how they say, women, especially any women in like a high up position, used to be really good at sport as a kid. Yeah. Because it just teaches you commitment, which is what you don't see a lot in young people now. Yeah. So it's a whole different generation. I'm sure every time a generation above talks about this.
Oh, yeah.
About the one below, but we were different to the one there is now. Yeah. So, and powerlifting became a bit of a fad. Like, it's become popular, but then, you know, like, and now you'll see it, it's like people take up running, and then they'll take ultra marathons, and then they'll take up powerlifting, and then just all sorts of things, and they never really stick to anything. Yeah. So,
yeah, well, it's funny, and I think I had this conversation kind of recently. I think it was on with Macaulay, who's a strongman. He knew very early on when he got into it that it was a long process. I think a lot of people now, like when I got into, like I've been powerlifting competing for 6 years, but I know it's like I've got a 20-year goal. Like, you know, it's not, I don't want tomorrow. I want it. I know it's going to take years.
I do kind of feel like I hit my peak though
You do?
Yeah, definitely with deadlift because I injured my back, so I haven't beat my deadlift since 2016 except for equipped.
Yeah.
My squat kept going up and my bench, but I had some pretty traumatic things happen last year, and I'm just like, I'm happy if I get strong again, and I'd like to compete again, but I know it's going to take a while. But I'm not sure if I'll ever beat that deadlift. I don't really care. It doesn't mean I'm going to quit.
Yeah, well, it satisfies some sort of urge to at least compete and be. There's other ways to beat your total without beating your deadlift too, so you can still progress.
See, I did that at the Nationals where I did the 412.5. I smashed my total, but I didn't deadlift as much.
Yeah. And I guess it comes down to what matters at the end of the day is like, well, the sport is your total, so if you can continually progress your total even a little bit, then it's worth staying in it.
Yeah, and that's what's happening. I was hurting my back with poor deadlift technique, and then the squat and benching and stuff up. So even though deadlifts last, it's still in training.
Yeah, for sure. So when you move, so you started out raw or classic raw as it's called in the tested federations, sleeves as we call it in the untested.
Yep.
You went into single ply kind of probably 2020.
So that was my third go that I actually did it. I had big hissy fits the first 2 times because it's awful. Yeah. Like, it's so bad. It's like, but you have to be tough. Max Bristow loves single ply. So he tried me twice, and then the third time it worked because my hip was playing up. So I had to do it or I had to stop squatting. Yeah. So I actually used my raw total to qualify for the Asias.
Oh, okay.
In equipped.
Yeah.
I just used my raw total and then I did a good equipped prep for that. So it was so bad that I had to wear the suit sleeves down just to do the bar. Yeah. It was really painful, but that just protected it. Anyone who says equipped is cheating you just don't understand how hard it is. It's so painful and you can't move and
it's a frustrating genre element of the sport.
Everyone should give it a go.
Yeah, especially those who are naysayers. Is like if you think it's cheating, it's like I would happily lend you any of my gear to give it a try. Like,
and they can't even get them on, and they're like, and then you're all bruised and and then the time I did it for nationals, the one where I didn't bomb, was just a break in comps between the States and the nationals raw. So me and one of my clients just used our raw total to do the nationals and we did it for something to do. Yep. And what do you call it? Another pin on the sleeve or whatever? Yeah. Yeah.
Another notch
on the belt. I mean.
So do you think you'll do single ply again?
No, my back injury can't handle the load from the squat. Yeah. That's how I actually injured it. A bulging disc in 2020. Right. Was at the top of the squat. It's just a low. I extended my back and then it went, and then I just can't handle. My spine can't keep up with the weight that I can do in equipped. Yep. So.
Well, that's frustrating.
Yeah, I know.
You got to work around what you can work around.
Yeah.
Okay,
I would though.
You would?
I would if
you could.
Yeah, just something to do.
Yeah, and you coach some single ply lifters now.
One at the moment.
Mel.
Yeah. Mel. Yep, she competes this weekend. But we started this equip prep pretty late. Yep. So, and she's done it before though, so we are able to pick it up pretty quick.
Yeah. So Max Bristow, for people who don't know, is a household name in Australian powerlifting. He's been competing for he's 80 now.
So
he's been competing since he was like 15 or something.
He did weightlifting before. He started when powerlifting started. Yeah. So I'm not. Was that it?
In the 60s or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he is still competing now. He competed single ply last year.
He's doing this weekend.
He's doing this weekend too.
He switched to APL.
Yeah. And still in single ply?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he can't move without single ply.
Yeah.
He's doing
holding him all together.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a pretty cool mentor coach experience to have, to come across someone as wealth of knowledge as Max. Mm-hmm. I don't know him personally. I'm going based on reputation.
Everyone knows him. Yeah.
So you met him through competition?
No, through my ex.
Through your ex, right. You did say that, sorry. And you've obviously maintained that relationship to this day. What are some of the biggest lessons you've learned from someone who's been around the sport as long as him? What has he passed on to you that you'll never kind of forget, and something that you pass on to your own clients?
He's quite the gentleman of the sport.
Yep.
So, no ego. Someone that should have an ego, because he's got all these frozen world records that can never be broken, plus records that are still could be broken if anyone could, but they can't. No ego. You got to get rid of the ego. Yep. And also, there was a time where I was getting too hyped and then blacking out as soon as I tried to pull or whatever, and had to learn to calm it down. Just explode when you actually get to the bar. Don't waste it. You look like an idiot. Yep. And so there's lots of values about what should be happening with the way comps run or the way coaches should be.
Yeah.
You know, it's not about yourself, that type of thing.
Yeah.
It's definitely passed from him.
Which I think is something like a lesson that needs to be learned these days, as we're discussing off air, like as the sport's grown and there's lots more people coming in the sport, there's a culture that's taking over that's not necessarily the culture that existed beforehand. And whether tradition good or bad, I think there's some good things from the spirit of powerlifting across the board that should stay, and people like Max kind of live and breathe it.
And people have tried to have him removed and make him out to be something he's not.
Yeah.
Or he's too old, he's a dinosaur, blah, blah, blah. But we need the purest there still, so we remember what it's about rather than what's coming in new. Like, social media is great, and it, especially if you're running a business, but there are sides to it. The egos and all that shouldn't have a place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say it's limited to tested federations, because it's certainly not. There seems to be a growing culture of self-aggrandization. Like it's just this centre of the world kind of...
In a sport that you don't get paid for.
Yeah. And it frustrates me across the board, like whether it's tested or untested, it's not. There seems to be more of it happening in the younger generation of tested lifters, and it seems to be a celebrated part of the culture that I find really frustrating. Not that I've been in the sport for generations, but I'm old. So I'm like this old man going, no, I don't think you should act like that. This is the spirit of powerlifting is a bit more less ego, more help. Like...
Yeah.
Help the next generation be better.
It used to be like powerlifting was for like big men that you'd be scared to fight.
Yeah.
Right? And now it's like little men with huge egos, and it's messed up. It's very intimidating for the women too. It makes them really uncomfortable. We don't have any of them at our gym. Yeah. So we have a lot of women. It's like 60 or 70% women at Newcastle Barbell.
Do you think that is... more about the culture or more about the fact that they have a female owner?
Both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's the culture that you set up to.
Yeah, I don't allow that type of mentality. Bring it down pretty quick. Yeah. But I've always found, even when I was just doing PT, I didn't really get male clients. If I got male clients, they were complete newbies or they were a bit older, like 40 or above. 50 or above. I never got my age, and I never got big dudes. Yeah. And so it's the same. So I don't coach anyone really in that demographic either. It's like younger guys or older guys or newbies, and then women. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I think a lot of it, like everyone, we'd like to blame social media for the ills of the world, and I think powerlifting's no different. It's like TikTok and Instagram have kind of not ruined it, but they've exacerbated that part of the culture that's kind of...
Yeah, you'll know my name.
Yeah, like...
It's like, I won't, because I don't care what you deadlifted in the gym.
And no one's going to, like... I always think of this, and I've said it before on here, I'm pretty sure Bob Merck is an American multiply lifter, had a huge raw total, moved into multiply, is number 2 in the world, squats 1,200 pounds, or no, 1,100 pounds, so... high 500 kilo squat. one of the strongest people ever. No ego. And one of the things he's said in an interview is that, no one's going to remember what you lift if you're an asshole kind of thing. And I just watch the current culture and I'm like, there's so much of that going on. It's like no one cares about your 250 for a set of 3 if you're jumping around, banging your chest saying that I'm the best in the world. Yeah, like everyone's just going to be like, okay, like cool. Like we want to be happy for you. Everyone wants everyone to be better, but you don't have to be the center of attention or the center of the world. Like no one actually really cares that much about what you're doing.
Yeah.
To celebrate it in that way, it just sits weird with me.
Yeah.
So I like that your gym doesn't have that, and like watching it online, I can see that it doesn't have that culture. It's a lot more mellow.
Yeah, we try not. We don't make too much noise either, unless like someone's doing a top single that's a PB or something like that. Like the people around and be like, "Woo, that's it."
I don't think you should need it either. Like
it's just kind of celebrated after if they hit a PB, but not.
Yeah, but if you're hitting like, a back down set of 3 to use today's vernacular, you're doing RPE at 7 for a back down set of 3 or something. You don't need ammonia and back slaps and
nobody cares about your set of 3.
No,
like your
just
coach
do the
cares,
work.
I care, but nobody online cares about your set of 3.
Yeah,
it's when you get to the peaking block that people start to show interest, and I get a lot more views and likes on Instagram and stuff on the business page and followers and whatever, but nobody cares.
Yeah. So to go into that kind of world, when you started the gym, you've been open for coming up on 2 years now?
So it's about 18 months now.
Yeah, so 2 years in November. Did you open?
December.
Yeah, okay. Opening a gym post-lockdown COVID world when lots of people lost their gyms. What was that like?
So I did it because I was at a commercial gym and they kind of just they didn't have the right equipment, like obviously. And I just kind of wanted a couple little changes that never came. So I was like, I'm going to have to go to a strength training gym to get these. Like just some, my one thing was just a safety bar or whatever.
Yeah, okay.
Like, so I went to Strength Republic for 2 years and then and the opportunity presented, like I was never going to open a gym. Everyone that asked me, I was like, no, there's too many. Like,
you don't need another gym.
yeah, but the opportunity presented with APU to run their meets and have a bunch of their equipment there, and I was like, I'd be crazy to pass that up. That's 20 grand's worth of equipment at least.
Yeah.
And it wasn't gift, but it set up the gym.
Yeah.
And I guess during the lockdown I was running PT out of my carport.
Yeah, right.
And doing my own thing, and I was like, well, this is good. Yeah. So, I went and opened. I was trying to be something different too, and there wasn't really anything that close to us. Like, I was trying to go closer to Newcastle, but it's very hard to find a unit that you can afford.
Yeah.
The only sort of area was Mayfield West, and it was still really expensive.
Yeah.
I was trying to cater more for people in town, or like Mayfield area, Broadmeadow, so that it was really close sort of to everywhere.
Yeah.
Then I just saw this unit on Facebook in Walls End, which used to be a pet store, and it was right next to where I grew up. So,
I was going to ask what it used to be because it looks like it was a mechanic or something.
Yep, it was a truck mechanic,
yeah,
service station, pet store, boxing fights in the 40s, cinema.
Yeah,
it's a big old building that I remembered as a kid, and it just kind of seemed meant to be, and it's huge. It's like double what I could have gotten anywhere else for less money. So,
yeah, I've only seen it driving past because we had GPC Nationals
right near
at Diggers last year, and I drove past and went, that's Newcastle. Well,
yeah.
Right. I had no idea where it was because I can still consider myself very new to the area, having only been here a couple of years, so I don't know where anything is. So you open around Christmas, which seems like an interesting time to open a business.
The reason I wanted to was because I didn't want to go through another summer where I was because it was too hot.
Right.
So that's why I opened in December.
Okay.
I was trying to get it open early, but it took me forever to get the building ready.
Yep.
The building was pretty big mess. It had been boarded up for years.
Okay.
So I had water coming in. I had to paint it and just grind the concrete. My boyfriend did that. And then, so actually opening it was okay because there was an outcry of people upset with another gym that wanted to come over. and my own clients. So I wouldn't have done it. It would be very hard to do it if you didn't already have clients. But I had a crew to bring over.
Yep.
And I only had 2 clients who did it, and they were older women, so who lived in town. So everyone else came across, which was very handy. So I hit my goal after like 2 months of members, so which was going to be like the 6-month goal.
Yep. So being at the point where you are now, 18 months into it, would you, if you had to do it again, would you do it again?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's been fruitful enough.
Yeah. It's the rising cost of living isn't the gym's fault. Yep. So the gym pays itself, and then I get my money through coaching.
Yep.
Yeah. There's nothing I probably would change.
Yeah. I think that's a good way to, I think, like, again, with money become such a big part of powerlifting. Like, we have money meets now where people are chasing cash prizes and people are trying to get sponsorships and get paid to do this sport that traditionally has never had money involved in it, really, except for maybe in the 90s for the multiply guys when it was real big. But that's like, it's a real grassroots sport.
Well, but it did become actually one of the other reasons I did open the gym was it was like hunter strength and HPC. More people like didn't want to pay for PT to do powerlifting, because it did become more of a popular sport. So it was kind of like I had to evolve or die, because I didn't want to do fitness classes. I didn't want to do weight loss PT. So before I actually opened the gym, I moved into training the groups together, so groups of like 4 or 5 people, powerlifting, before I opened the gym, because I knew I had to. It's too expensive to do at PT rates. But there was no other choice before, so people would do it. I think now, like with the evolution of online coaching, everyone's got their own coach and stuff, and now you just need a gym and you can powerlift kind of thing. Whereas before, probably not even 6-7 years ago, you'd have to be in a crew or in a gym with a coach or doing. Most people did it in garages. Like with Max or Richard Hojan. That's how I came up. And that's why I'm not like a powerlifting snob. All my plates aren't calibrated. I have a ton of them. They're bloody expensive. So I'm happy with Muscle Tech metal plates. That's all we used before. Or we used Aussie strength plates at the commercial gyms or Hammer strength. But that's all changed, hasn't it? Everyone wants calibrated. But
I still would much prefer to load up
20s.
20 black iron 20s.
People don't understand what we came up with.
I trained in a country town on my own, so I had, rubber coated, tri-grip plates, and like never had any of that powerlifting stuff. And all I ever wanted was just like a dirty old barbell and black iron plates.
See, that's what I had as well. And then I would go to Max's once or twice a week and train on his calibrated stuff. But that was the only way you could use calibrated. I think that's probably why I don't have a big ego with it, is the way we came up with training in guys' garages.
So
not spoiled.
You started running comps for APU through Newcastle Barbell. Since the separation of APU and IPF, that's no longer, you've moved on to running APL comps. When you started running the APU comps, how did that go down with the gym? Did the comps go well?
I did them first. I did a couple out of Strength Republic. Gave them a fee as a venue, and out of my boyfriend's gym, Central Coast Barbell. So I already knew what I was doing. I'm pretty organised too, so I'm good at that stuff. So then when I did it for APU, the first one was actually, it was hectic. It was 80 something, the first one at my gym. I was lucky enough that almost half the building was empty, so I just run the meets on that side. But is
that still the case? You still have that?
We have just put a
space?
Boxing gym in there. But they're happy to let me use their space. That's why I do it on Sunday, because they're not open. Because mostly boxing is just a flat area, and I couldn't afford to rent the whole building. So we still get to do that. It just became really hard when it came to the state championships. When it was like all on me. Were
you involved in running the nationals over at Wall's End for AP
That's APA.
That's
I
the APA.
don't have anything to do with them.
Yeah, okay. This is where I get confused because, like, my side of the fence, I'm still kind of around. Like, I know most about what's going on in GPC, a little bit around Capo. The tested feds, I'm so out of the loop of what's going on apart from obviously the headlines that come up.
Yeah, well, I already saw... I'd had enough anyway.
Yep.
By the end of last year, I was fed up. So I was already on the phone to Thomas from Zero about APL just with some info. And then I hung up the phone and then someone was like, did you see the news? They've split from IPF. Right. So I'd already pretty much made my mind up to go to APL. So then when APA came about, I'd already committed to the APL.
Yeah. And so have you run APL comps?
One.
How'd that go?
It was so good. It was so good. No stress. And the thing is with APL is like everything's on me. Mm-hmm. So I set up the payment and the Google form for all the lifters' details. So I have everything I need. Yeah. And then just pay for medals and drug testing. And like obviously tell them who's in the comp and then give them the results. So it's actually kind of better when it's like all on you because you're not trying to hound people for information to set up the comp. Sure.
How have you found being involved with the IPF side of things for most of your time, so Powerlifting Australia and APU, and how stringent drug testing and being involved in WADA and all that stuff is?
It wasn't.
It was. how stringent it appears, I should say. I know enough to know that I know it's not as strict as they like to think it is, but how's the transition to APL and their drug testing been?
Top 10% of every comp has to be tested.
Yep.
I ran 7 comps last year and there was not one drug test done.
Right.
Yeah.
So moving to APL and just sticking to that, this is part of what we do. Top 10% gets tested and it's done. Has that been because one of the things I'm watching as a non-tested lifter that I find really interesting is people crave the tested side of things. It's like people really want to be involved in tested feds for whatever reason. Maybe they work in military or police or something and they want to, like I know people personally who are military who want to compete in powerlifting but don't want the stigma of steroids. So they're like, I need to compete tested so I can prove to work that it's not an issue. So there's this kind of cultural craving for people to be part of the drug tested one. But there's so much stigma and kind of bullshit around IPF and WADA that I feel like APL's way of doing it is interesting because it's simple. It's just top 10% tested, that's it.
Yeah. And then I think if I wanted to, I could order more tests and because I pay for them. Yeah. That's just a matter of they're expensive. So I do the top 10%, but if I had bigger comps, I'd be able to do more. Yeah. It's just not as popular in the area yet. Yeah. I mean, it's really big in Sydney, but they're not wanting to travel to Newcastle. Yeah.
You're only one meet in, we'll get there. No doubt it will grow. I know that's certainly popular.
They did a really good job at Nationals too. It was very well run. Yep. The whole thing only saw one douchebag, so that's different.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Nationals was recently, yes?
Yep. Yeah. End of June.
And you had some lifters up there?
4.
Yep. 4. One of which being your partner.
Yeah.
Too, who you do his programming.
When it comes to comp, Otherwise he kind of does himself, he fluffs about a bit and he always is like, I'm going to do bodybuilding for a while, and then he gets sick of it and then and he reluctantly enters a comp. I put his entry in for Nationals without telling him until after. It was an expression of interest. Yeah. And then he was kind of doing apps, and then I was like, I need to do your peak. Like he kept getting like sick or injured 2 weeks out when he should have been doing his top stuff, and I was like, you need a 2-week taper. So he did real well. A lot of it's on himself. He builds his strength himself, and then I just manage the peak.
Because he owns a gym, Central Coast Barbell.
Yeah.
If I'm getting the name right. He's also a coach too. And sometimes as coaches, we're our worst coach. Like I know that I know how to auto-regulate myself, but I like someone else to do my programming because otherwise I'll just do the stuff that I'm like doing.
Well, he wasn't a powerlifter either. He did strongman and Highland Games. Oh, okay. And then I was like, hey, you would probably represent Australia in, same thing Max said to me, in powerlifting because he's so strong. Yeah. Like, he can bench 190. Yeah. he doesn't lift his bum. But you know what I mean? Like, it's just, he's 40, turning 44, you know, like under 120 is pretty strong.
Yeah.
And then we just had to get his squat up.
Yep.
So yeah, he was naturally very strong. He's very built.
How do you go, so having a lot of female clients and probably being as strong, if not stronger, or like similarly strong to a lot of your clients, coaching and programming for someone like your partner who's significantly stronger in terms of numbers, right? Mm-hmm. How do you go as a coach? You just do the same thing? You just like, they're just bigger numbers. Like we'll just do.
Well, yeah, it's all percentage based, isn't it? And then you get to the end with your singles and I did program him RPE, but he undershot. So I took over. Oh,
he's an undershooter.
Yes, so I took over. And then I picked his numbers for the top singles and stuff, and then it worked out really well.
Yeah, cool.
But like, sets and stuff are all usually percentage based, so it doesn't really matter if you're male, female, whatever.
Intimidate you as a coach when the numbers are that kind of big? Because they're...
No, and he does most of it at his gym.
Yeah.
So he has the boys around him. His gym's more male dominant because he's a male. It's the same
I just mean like programming them in general. Like I know that when I know
what he can do.
Yeah. I know when I first started coaching people stronger than me, I was like, I had this moment of kind of like, oh shit, like this is weird. I don't know if you've ever felt that, but I know that because primarily when I coached, I've always coached people weaker, for lack of a better word.
I've coached one of my girls that I used to compete against, and she's way stronger than me now.
Yeah. I think it's a really satisfying thing to coach. So to go into coaching a bit more, and particularly around programming stuff, what is your kind of methodology and like philosophy around training? Do you follow like a linear approach? You obviously said you give RPE sometimes. Like what's your kind of main mode of attack when it comes to programming?
Like progressive overload, but the first block would be like high volume. Like the people that are like, sets of 8 just cardio, you're an idiot. You can't always do sets of 3. Middle block around 5 reps, so it's your strength block, and then you've got your peaking, which is normally singles, but sometimes it might be triples, doubles, and then singles at the end. I do all different types of programs because I know I get bored, so everyone's going to get bored.
Yeah.
So I try not to give them, like if they've done one comp with one program, I'll change it for the next one to one of my other ones because people get bored and then they will quit. So you've got to keep them around.
Well, especially in powerlifting, it's a boring sport, so let's keep it fun a little bit.
Yeah, like the 2 of the girls that competed at Nationals are doing power building right now. They've entered a comp the end of November, so we're nowhere near a comp prep for that. So I'm just letting them do power building for a while. Yeah. And then the other one, I wanted to get our bench up. So we've got a very bench dominant program. And then Luke's doing his own thing for a while.
So when you say power building, what would that look like? What would a typical week look like for those guys?
First week is like 3x10 of a squat, and then a lot of accessories.
And would that be a percentage or an RPE?
It's percentage. Yeah. And then the same thing for bench and deadlift.
Yep.
So they're on real high reps.
Is it a hard set of 10?
Not week 1. Yeah. Week 2 obviously becomes a bit harder. Then the next week it drops to sets of 8. So lots of volume, lots of muscle building, and especially because one of them was 79 and 82.5. So I'm like, you're either cutting to the 75s or we're putting some muscle on you. Sure. I don't want to cut to the 75. Okay, well, putting some muscle on you. Yeah. Yeah.
So 2 weeks at 10s, 2 weeks at 8s, 2 weeks at 6s kind of thing?
Yeah.
That's how you progress that?
And then that program, the lowest week is 3s. So there's no proper peak. It's just something to do.
Overload.
Yeah, just progressive overload.
And what's your frequency in programming of squat, bench and deadlift? Do you do the high frequency?
Depends again on the program. Sure. So power building is only squatting once a week. The comp prep will be benching at least 3 times a week, squat twice, deadlift twice.
Okay.
I only normally program 4 days a week, not above that. I know from experience. You can't train that many times to recover, especially powerlifting. It's too heavy.
So if you're doing a peak or we're moving into a comp prep phase, what do you do the kind of tertiary, primary, secondary days for SBD?
Yeah. So that's what I mean by you'd squat twice a week, but you'd only do your main squat once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So day one would be like primary squat.
And primary bench.
And primary bench.
And day two is primary deadlift
yep.
and a secondary bench.
Okay. And then day four,
secondary
again,
squat.
Rotates. Yeah.
Secondary bench, and then the last day would be secondary deadlift and some accessories.
So one thing I see, because I don't do that like very much at all, high frequency. I'm really interested in high frequency.
Well, it's hard when you're in equipped. With equipped, it's totally different.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so equipped, we would just do a equip squat once and you wouldn't squat again.
No, you can't recover
bench,
from that.
and because it takes so long to get into the gear and to warm up,
Yeah.
it's so much longer to do the session. So I wouldn't do squat and bench on the same day.
Mm-hmm.
They just squat and then accessories because it takes so long, and then bench and then accessories. So that's what Mel's doing right now.
Yeah.
And then on the fourth day, it's raw.
Yeah.
And it'd be secondary bench, secondary deadlift, or whatever.
I think I messaged Mel actually. She posted 5x5 in her shirt, and I was like, "Did you like?"
She's got a block on.
She did the single, and then she said followed by 5x5, and I'm like, I messaged him like, "Did you do 5x5 in the shirt?" And she's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "That is brutal."
She's like, Courtney's a bitch. she's been complaining about the sets ever since, but they're easy. It's more, and they're light. It's just about trying to get it down.
Yeah.
So we're just trying to get it down on her.
Yeah, it's kind of like a bit of work in the groove and break and that kind of technical application of equipped benching.
Yeah.
I think doing reps in shirts is really good. I program it a bit for my equipped guys.
And it stretches the shirt.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll do it to boards generally for those guys, but the same principle applies. It's just like doing a heap of reps.
Well, you can't get it to your chest, so she's got the block on. It's normally like a 2 block. You can't get it to your chest if you don't.
Yeah.
Like 4 reps. That's something you hit for a set of 5, you cannot get to your chest.
No.
Like, it takes to the singles to get it to your chest, really.
It would be, I shudder to think what I'd have to do for a set of 5 to get
Yeah, so when I have an equipped person, I use one of my programs, but I use like the skeleton and then I tear it apart.
Yeah.
So I use percentages, but I move things and then I delete things. And
So one difference I see kind of just watching from the outside in terms of, because you post a lot of your clients' training, and I watch everyone's stuff because I'm interested. Right? And as a high frequency kind of style, you seem to have more accessories than, say, some of the other people that practice high frequency training in that realm. There seems to be a lot of, particularly in APU lifters, a lot of SBD days where it seems to only be squat, bench and deadlift, and there doesn't seem to be any accessories.
I don't really do SBD days either. Honestly, only when I do openers.
Yep.
Unless you count squat, bench, radio, but I don't count that as an SBD. So I don't post their accessories either very often. I might only post their accessories when I've forgotten to take a photo of their primary, a video of their primary.
Yeah. So what does an accessory look like for your powerlifters? Do they do, because obviously raw is going to be a bit different in terms of what you have to build up for a raw squat and sleeves. You're going to obviously have to be more anteriorly dominant, quads, all that sort of stuff. But what are your go-tos for building up a raw powerlifter?
RDL.
RDL?
Dumbbell chest press, incline chest press, belt squat, hack squat.
Yep.
It's pretty basic. It's not anything crazy. It's just so it might be day 1 primary squat, primary bench, RDL, and dumbbell chest press. That's it.
Yep.
The easier days with secondary lifts have more accessories, but lots of back work as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the one thing that interests me a lot doing this podcast, and one of the reasons I even did it to begin with, is like I love these kind of conversations and finding the commonalities between all of us. Like I'm a multiply lifter who trains conjugate with, weird setups all the time. Mm-hmm. And you might train a lot different to me, but the same stuff applies across the board. We're both doing progressive overload because that's a principle that works. And we have to build up the same things. Like I have to build up my back. You guys have to build up your back. Like it doesn't differentiate that much. We're still doing squat, bench and deadlift. So
but we just do more accessories because we're not as tired from equipped.
Yeah, well.
From equipment.
Yeah, but I do quite a few accessories. Typically my stuff will look like a max effort day. I might work up to something heavy, and then I move on from that, and the rest is just accessories. I might have like 4 or 5 accessories and I've just done that big heavy squat, and it's like a bunch of bodybuilding.
Well,
work.
yeah, actually, big men can handle more. I found that with Luke too. So when I'll program his stuff, he'll probably add some accessories in there too. Whereas the ladies and the lighter weight men can't really handle that type of volume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the things that it's kind of like, I don't know if it's a myth, it's just like a common thing that gets said a lot, is that women can handle more upper body volume. As someone who, obviously you are a woman, but you coach a lot of women, do you find that to be true, or do you think that it's less, like you just said, that women can't handle as much volume on accessories generally? Do you think they can hold more volume in upper body accessories than men, or do you think no? Do you think it's because there's generally less muscle?
Yeah.
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 And
we just, I don't know, you're just tanks. Just
well, I think it comes down to genetics, right? So we're built to put
we're
built to put muscle on our shoulders and our chests. Women are built to put muscle on their hips. So women tend to respond well to high volume lower body stuff. In my experience, that's why.
But they want to do it too, because there's a stigma that they'll get a nice ass.
Yeah.
So they want to do it, whereas they don't want to do upper body because it hurts and can't do very heavy.
And if you get muscly upper body, you look manly, and that's when they
don't forget about that.
So, and every guy, I don't care who you are, everyone loves an upper body pump. We all want delts and big pecs and biceps and stuff like that.
You'll actually see that mentality turn as I train people.
Yeah.
Joe, for example, probably my best lifter.
Yeah.
She was really body conscious, and now she's taking photos with her upper body pump.
Yeah.
So it's not just like the numbers gain, it's a mentality gain too.
Yeah.
The shift in how you feel about your body.
I think
you find that a lot with women actually in lifting.
I
feel better about themselves.
Have found a lot of women who I've coached over the years. So there seems to be, I don't know if it's just the women that have come across my path, but they all love shoulders. Shoulder exercises, shoulder days, they all love it. They all want capped delts. I'm like, what? Where does this come from? And I always ask, like, why? What is it about shoulders? And they're like, just like, because it rounds out the shape or something. They want hips and they all want shoulder caps.
No, my girls, they're not like that.
No?
No, and I think it might be the difference between feds and things like that, but they hate shoulder press.
Yeah, right.
That's so much. Oh, this sucks. This is so hard. It's like, yes, it is for all of us.
Yeah.
Girls are not very good at it, but we do it. It doesn't matter if you've got 1.25s on. Just do it. It'll make your bench stronger.
I feel so weak. It's like, well, it's because you don't do it. So if you do it more, you'll get stronger.
But I actually did find that was the first thing to change the most in my body when I started lifting, was the shape of the shoulders really suck out quite quickly.
Yeah.
That's where you could tell that I had some muscle, that I was lifting.
Yeah.
The shoulders they grew and became shaped, which is like normally women's arms and that don't look very defined. So I reckon that is the first thing. And then you notice eventually the bum.
Yeah.
Firmer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the butt and the shoulders, it's and the guys, it's like as soon as we start getting pecs and we can control our pecs, we're all happy about that. So generally, as a correlation, you've seen people's self-esteem grow through strength training. Was it the same for you? Or were you always a confident person?
Yeah, I was always confident in sport.
Yeah.
I guess I learnt to communicate with people a bit better. I'm not the most empathetic coach, so the girls that come to me are a bit more tough or resilient, because I am. Mm-hmm. So confidence with sport was always there, because that's what I always did. Like I used to train 11 times a week between sports. I went to the sports high school. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's been a big part of your kind of makeup as a person. It's been that. How has it transitioned to being on the other side as a coach? Like apart from you know, that lack of empathy, even though that's probably a good thing sometimes, because you can push people.
Yeah.
How has that transition to coach been for you, from athlete to coach? Like, are you a different person, or are you just the same person looking back going, all right, this is how I did it, this is how we're going to do it?
Yeah, I learnt heaps from my own mistakes. I feel like that's a heaps better way to be a good coach, is, hey, I did it this way and it hurt. Yeah. But there are obviously different personalities. Like when Jo goes on the platform, I can't hype her up. She wants to be calm, or she'll freak out.
Yep.
Other girls want the ammonia and they want the hype up. But still, same thing. It's like, don't waste it until you get out there. Don't use it until you get out there. So I learnt things from myself, but I've also learnt different people have got to be treated a different way. But then also, I'm not going to hold your hand.
Yep.
Because that's not me. Don't touch me. Yeah.
So pushing people and not holding their hand, has that been, because from my experience as a coach and kind of everyone that I've spoken to, you're going to get those people that need that. How do you deal with that when you get that person that is more needing a reassurance and hand holding? Do you struggle with that?
I kind of try and twist it back into let's just focus on this right now.
Sure.
Like, because the gym isn't the place to come and cry and have counselling, because it's not my job. So I'll be like, no, come on, you can do it. And they do end up feeling better. Like, or like, oh, I really didn't feel like coming today, but I feel heaps better now. So I don't counsel them. Like, I'll listen for a bit, but then it's like, come on, we got to get on with it.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think that's because, like, I've had so much crap happen to me that I'm like, you can move past this, because, like I did. And you can, and you will feel better once you do it.
Yeah.
Like, the endorphins that you'll get, you're going to feel better. You just have to push yourself. Yeah, I don't have, like, the real soft women or anything like that. We just, you know, when you meet someone and, like, you have to click with a client to be able to keep them. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I'm a big believer that you kind of attract people, especially as a coach, but just in general, you attract people that are, like, either need you for a reason, because you're going to push them forward, or they connect with you on a different level. You end up getting people that are similar to you or have been through similar things to you, because they can, even if they don't know it, they can sense it somehow.
Yeah, for sure.
It's amazing how many of my clients that I, like, don't know anything about them, and then, like, a year into it, we're like, oh, you know, we've gone through these similar things.
Yeah, made great friends through it.
Yeah, or, you know, we grew up doing similar things, and it's like, oh, it's amazing how many of these things we have in common. But neither of us knew this beginning, but it works out well.
You know, and you know in that first meeting whether you're going to click or not. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you find that, therefore, obviously you get more females, do you get a lot of committed female athletes because you are a committed female athlete and they can see that?
Yeah, but even if they weren't athletes before, they become committed. The other ones that, like, don't turn up to training and things like that don't last very long. Yeah. Yeah, I can't remember where my train of thought was going with that one.
So the commit, like, if they're not a committed athlete, when they come to you, they grow into one, because
for sure. Like, people, I get lots of newbies, and then they end up, you know, they're always hitting their 4 sessions a week, and then they want to compete. Like, it's people that you wouldn't even expect want to compete, like pretty girls and things, and then they end up wanting to compete just because it's around them, and they're like, oh, what a good goal. Like, do you know what I mean? Even if they're not going to do that great on their first combo, from the outside, they're not that great. You don't have to be, but they like that goal, and they like being part of that crew that's doing the comps and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think, like, again, in this current culture era of humanity that we're in, we kind of have no test. There's not a lot of, for general people working a 9 to 5 or whatever, there might not be, like, tests in their life where they have to, like, see what they're made of. I feel like powerlifting, strength sports, competing in general is like that void that a lot of people kind of lean into when they find out the gym. They're like, oh,
the adrenaline and the excitement too.
Yeah, there's no other option in their life where they get that. So I think people get really attached to that.
And, like, my boyfriend Luke was, like, saying, oh, the girls in Newcastle are just they just work harder, blah, blah, blah. I was like, that's just what I attract at the gym. That's just what I build them into. Or if they're not already like that, I build them into it. Yeah. They're not all like this. This isn't all women in Newcastle.
No. Well, and that is a testament, again, like the any gym is kind of the representation of its owner, I think. It's not the other coaches in there. It's like the owner is the masthead of the gym.
Yeah.
You set the tone. So what you do is what the gym does. And if you're dropping the ball or you're lazy or whatever, the gym's going to get lazy.
Or if you're not clean and you don't pack your weights away,
yeah,
you're going to have a messy gym.
Yeah, and if you don't do it, but you're upset that other people do it, it's like, well, you're not leading by example. So
Exactly.
What you do is what your gym's going to do, regardless if you coach them or not, I think.
And I do want more like bigger guys in the gym. I'd love that. We've had a few come in lately, but they normally don't want coaching. They just want to use the gym, which I'm fine with.
Yeah.
Like, use the gym.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you, what is the overall, because I've not been to Newcastle Barbell. I will come down someday and see it. Now that we've met too, I'll come down and check it out. But I've watched it from its inception to grow into what it is now. And obviously what you put online is what you put online. We're all trying to cultivate kind of our marketing through our online persona. But I think yours is very you just show the gym for what it is, for how I see it. What's the culture like in your gym between members?
Yeah, so you'd think I've heard of other gyms where if you're not getting coached by the owner or the coaches, you're kind of treated as an outsider. So the girls that book in together, not just the girls, but they become really good friends because they're training together. So they're with me, but we still talk to the other people that come in.
Yeah.
It's just that we have our little times that line up.
Yeah.
And we have our crews. But the people who aren't coached by me are just as welcome, and we still talk to them.
Yeah.
We still invite them out. They still compete in the comps. We still treat them as part of our team.
Yeah.
So everyone becomes pretty good friends, and you see each other a lot. You don't normally see your friends that many times a week.
No.
But you're seeing these people you train with, so they become really good friends, which is great. But yeah, I don't if I post reels, it's photos and things that have been taken for me, and just their videos of their training. But I don't like to make scripted stuff or anything like that. That's not me.
Yeah.
Q, you should do this cue and you shouldn't do that cue, or your coach is wrong if they're telling you to do that, because everybody needs a different cue. You probably don't stand the same as I do when I squat.
No.
And everyone's different.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not saying there's one way to do it. If you watch the videos of my guys lifting, they all look different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many coaches do you have in the gym?
It's just me. And then I have PTs.
Yeah.
So Ewan coaches for me once a week, because I was going to the Century Coast on a Wednesday hours, so he was doing it for me then. And then we've got Harry, who's just trying to get his PT business up. But otherwise it's my clients that I coach, and then they'll run their PTs, whatever they want, and subcontracting. And then people follow their own programs, so they have online coaches.
Yeah. So do your clients train in little groups? Is that
but
what you were hinting at before? You do one-on-ones, but you also do...
No, I don't do one-on-ones anymore.
Oh, okay.
So I have a booking thingo.
Yep.
I train up to 4 people at a time.
Oh, okay.
Because at the start I was whoever's paying for coaching, I'm going to be here at these times, and whoever's there, I'll coach. And then I had 12 people turn up. It was working really well for 2 months. 12 people turn up at a time in a 37-degree day.
Yeah.
And it was why are you all here? So after that, I brought in booking, and I did have it up to 5, but it was just a bit much. So I did up to 4, because we rest so much. I just rotate. They could be at one end of the gym and the other one at one, and I just walk around when they're doing their sets and coach them while they're doing their sets. Yeah.
I like that idea. I think 4 is a good number too. I've done small group PT groups before where we used to run up to 20 clients, but we had 3 coaches on the floor because we couldn't have more than 6, I think. But 6 was a bit much. But we ran groups in little racks, and we'd have stations basically. Yeah. But I found 4's the sweet spot.
It is, and we have enough racks that normally they don't have to share.
Yeah.
They just have their own little spot.
And
I just float.
Well, I like that idea, because then you're encouraging people to train together too.
Yep.
I think that's something that is, again...
And that's what builds their friendships.
Yeah.
So like I said, we're still friends with, and we still talk to the ones that are coming in and doing their online coaching or whatever. But the ones that I actually coach become a bit more of a bond, because we are in it the same times, and it's just a bit more, but it's not like they're outsiders, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%. Our gym's the same. Like, we've got, obviously, Leroy is the owner.
Yeah.
And there's three of us. I'm trying to figure out how many. There's 3 other coaches there. Mm-hmm. But the gym has numerous people that aren't coached by any of us.
Yeah.
But they're all we all jump in and spot each other. We all help each other. We all do all that. That's a big part of why our gym is successful, I think.
Yeah. And you need that too, because there's not enough of me to coach everyone.
Yeah. And it's like, if another coach is there and they'll give my people cues that they'll know I want to give, and vice versa. Like, someone might be coached by one of the other coaches goes, hey, what does he mean by this? And they'll show me the program.
Yeah.
And I'll go, well, I'll know enough about their coaching style to go, well, what I would think he would want is this. What I would want might be different, but what I think, I know that he wants this, so this is what you're going to work on. And vice versa, they'll know enough about my programming style to go, well, what I think Rob would want from this situation is this to happen. And the clients do that as well. We coach each other, and like, there's more of that starting to happen again. I think we went through a quiet period, but
yeah, I
think
through
all
a quiet
gyms go
period.
through like up and downs that way. But
like a few months ago, there was a few drop off, but now there's a few back. Gyms are like this. It's the same as PT. You like lose some and then you get more.
Yeah.
You lose some, you get more.
I find you tend to lose like a bunch, and then you're like, oh shit, what's happening? And then all of a sudden you get one. You're like, okay, right.
And then you get another, and then you get another. And you're like, oh, I'm fine.
And then it just stays steady for a while, and then all of a sudden, like 4 people leave, and you're like, what the hell's happening? Is it me? It's never you, I don't reckon. It just seems to be the way, especially with the price of living.
Yeah.
Which we can't, as you said, we can't control that. No. It's not our fault. So it's perfectly understandable when people can't shell out for personal training. Mm-hmm. So when you have that set up, that almost small group situation, but where you're doing that, so do people pay you weekly just for coaching, or are they paying for that session? How does that work?
I have like a fortnightly membership. So gold is obviously you get the gym access.
Yep.
And then you do as many sessions with me as you want.
Yeah.
Programming, and then day coaching. Yeah. All comes with that. Silver, you just get coached by me twice a week, but you still get the program.
Yep.
And you still get gym access, but you do probably 2 sessions on your own, and then bronze is just gym access.
Yeah. Okay.
So.
And you find that's been a good model?
Yeah, because some people want me every time. Or some people have, and then with the silver, it's like people that have odd jobs that, like shift workers, they can't make more than twice a week coached. So they just do 2 coached and 2 by themselves. Yeah. Yeah. And then I want the people with just gym access too.
Yeah.
I want people to just use the gym.
Well, that's it. As a gym owner, you can't coach everyone. You need members that just pay the bills too, and like build the community.
Yep.
When you started the gym, obviously it was like you had that base already of clients. You had the APU opportunity that kind of pushed you over the edge to do it. How important was building a culture in the gym to you when you started?
Yeah, I wanted it to be no ego.
Yeah. That was a very definite.
That was it. I'll have it written on the chalkboard at the front.
Yeah.
No egos. Yeah. You're not better than the other person. I don't care if you can squat 300, you're still not better than the person that's squatting 40 over there. Yeah. You're not more important to me than them. Yeah. Their PB is just as important as yours. Yeah. So.
Do you have a PB bell at your gym? No?
I have a PB wall.
You have a PB wall?
Yeah, right at the front, big chalkboard.
I was trying to think whether I remember seeing a video, because I know there's a couple of gyms in town that have PB bells.
Pinpoint, I think, has a bell.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I find them they're funny. They amuse me, but like, it's cool. Like, I think like everyone's PBs
should be celebrated. Yeah,
that's it. And like what I find with our gym, particularly, like if I speak to people who know about it, but they don't want to come in, they're like, I'm not strong enough to train there.
I know, I do hear that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, yes, there's lots of people who aren't strong enough to train here. Do you think that those people didn't come here that strong?
Well, it's like with PT too. People were like, oh, I think I just want to build up for a little bit and then come to you. It's like, no, you need to coach straight away. Yeah. Like, you should be coached immediately to be taught to do it properly, and then you'll have faster results. You don't need to warm up to coaching with me. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like trying to get strong before you compete. It's like if you want to compete, you need to learn how to compete. So just start competing. You'll get better because you're motivated to compete more.
Yeah, I think
rather than trying to.
It only takes 2 programs normally until people are keen to compete. If they want to, if that's a goal for them, they'll do one program, max out, and they're, oh, that was fun.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I might do a comp actually.
Yeah, then they do it and have a ball. So you've been in the sport for quite a while. When you started in 2015, how big was it?
I was one of 3 girls in comps normally.
Yep.
Me and Mel were 2 of them.
Yep.
What I would call, so my comps this year have been small to me, with like 20 and 24 people, because I'm used to doing huge ones. That was a standard comp before.
Yeah.
So much bigger now.
Yeah.
Much more competition.
Yep. And overall, like on a national level, going to national events and hosting national events or state level events, is more people rising the tide of the whole sport, do you think?
What do you mean, sorry?
Like, do you think that people are getting better because there's more people?
Yes, but also I'm a bit iffy about if people that are saying they're drug-free are really drug-free, because some of the things that people are lifting, you're like, and the way that they look, you're like,
Yeah.
Like I was a freak when I deadlifted 181 and 72, and now they're deadlifting over 200 in the 60s.
Yeah.
It's like, and it took Mel. Mel's been competing longer than me, and it took her until probably last year or the year before to deadlift 200.
Yeah.
And she is built to deadlift.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm questionable about whether it's actually clean. And because there hasn't been testing,
Yeah.
they've had every opportunity to take drugs.
Yeah. Okay.
Which I don't care if you take drugs.
Yeah, there's feds for that.
Yeah, like just don't cheat.
Yeah. That's something that perplexes the absolute shit out of me. When I first started, I was involved with Powerlifting Australia, and
Oh, cool.
trained, did the coaching course with Wilkes. Spent quite a bit of time with Wilkes. He ended up taking over being my supervisor for my coaching hours, because the gym I was working at.
Oh, for PT?
Oh yeah, like when you do the qualification, the gym owner, who was a Powerlifting Australia affiliate, and I had a falling out over music, which was retarded. And Wilkes took over my supervising hours anyway. I decided that I liked raps and monos better anyway, and moved on from that. But I had a bit to do with Wilkes and a bit to do with Powerlifting Australia. In general, and watching those comps, there was kind of like a standard level of strength. You're always going to get outliers who are really strong. But if there's more people, is there more outliers? So you're seeing more stronger people come up now, where there's more girls deadlifting 200 because there's heaps more people in the sport. Do you think that's part of it, or do you think that because the drug testing has been so lax, that's people have just seen the opportunity to cheat?
Definitely. But obviously more people is going to make it more competitive. But yes, I think the lack of drug testing.
Yeah.
I haven't been drug tested since I did Olympic lifting.
Right.
Yeah.
And you've been in the sport for 10 years.
Yep.
So.
And I broke 2 international records.
Yeah. This is why, if you're listening, people say drug tested doesn't mean drug free. No. It's because it's just the off chance that you may be tested.
You can see it too. You see jaws, you hear voices.
Yeah.
Cap shoulders on women. It's not normal.
Yeah, it's a giveaway.
There are women with higher testosterone naturally.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Which you could probably argue that I probably have a little bit higher than, but I've always been amazing at sport. So you wouldn't look at me and go, oh, she just came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I was in the Australian train-on squad for soccer.
Yeah.
Twice. I didn't make the cut. And so I wasn't that good, but
to get there, you have to be good.
Then I came 4th at nationals for high jump.
Yeah.
So I didn't come out of nowhere being good at sport.
Yeah.
So there's some genetic stuff going on with people, but people getting to 180 squat in a year of training, like women lighter than me, that's not. And it's a bit, the lack of drug testing, I reckon, has definitely made things go up.
Where do you think that lack of drug testing comes from? Just cost?
You would think so, but the amount of people that were competing, especially last year, we had 130 lifters in the men's states, one drug test.
Yeah.
There's a lot of money earned there.
Yeah.
And I only got paid maybe to, I made a profit of $3,000 out of all of the state championships I held last year, women's, men's, and masters.
Mm-hmm.
So you think of that profit.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money. They were like 110 an entry.
Yeah.
So there was enough money for drug testing.
Yeah.
I don't know why it wasn't done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Possible. Like, well, one of the things, and again, so I got myself on a tangent, but coming up with Wilkes and Powerlifting Australia, one thing I saw very early on was a little bit behind the curtain of how Powerlifting Australia operated and the IPF operated, because it was in that tumultuous time just before PA got the boot. And
they tested the same lifters every time.
Yeah.
So Cam was always getting tested, my ex. Max Bristow got tested like 40 times over a span of a couple of years because they knew that they were going to peak clean.
Yeah.
So you don't want, you don't want bad tests coming back.
Yeah.
It looks bad.
Yeah, it does.
So we test the same lifters and that we know won't.
Yeah, but there was issues then and issues dating. Like, there's probably always been issues with the drug testing. But one thing that Wilkes had talked to me about particularly was, and the group that we were with, was that a lot of that was coming from the higher ups because they want to grow the sport. And the sport looks good if people are really strong. But it looks bad if they get popped for drugs.
Some guys as well, it's just so obviously not clean.
Yeah.
You can tell by the skin and, when they're lifting, you can tell.
Yeah.
And it's just like, this is ridiculous. Like, just test them.
So when you got into the sport, did you kind of just fall into Powerlifting Australia because that's what was available, or was it a deliberate decision to go to the drug-tested feds?
I did not even know there was untested.
Yeah, okay.
It's the same thing. I didn't know there was a difference between weightlifting and powerlifting.
Yeah.
I thought there was just one body.
Yeah.
Which obviously there was for drug tested, but that's who Cam and Max were with.
Yeah.
So that's who I was going with. That's why I went to APUs, because I was loyal to Max, and Max was a big part of APU.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And so sticking with it this long, staying in that lane of kind of drug tested, is there something that makes you want to stay in the drug tested realm? Like, is that like a deliberate decision, a deliberate kind of moral stance for you, do you think?
I this is no offense to anyone, but I don't want to look the way that women look when they get on drugs.
Yeah.
I don't want the side effects.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't need to. I don't have any urge to lift the insane numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
It's just
Well,
personal preference, and I don't have anything against women that do it and are in their own lane. They stay in their lane.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah.
And it's not like I haven't been around people that are on drugs. Like, men, like, I haven't known any women actually,
Yeah.
or they haven't told me.
Yeah.
I've been around them, but as long as they don't compete with us,
Yeah.
I don't give a shit.
I think that's the thing that we all, from the untested side, like in untested, there's as many people that do drugs as don't do drugs. Right? There's probably more people than you would ever think that are natural.
Yeah, but because we've had such a problem with the dictatorship in feds, it might be nicer to go to. And that's why I'm fond of APL, because they have both sides.
Yeah.
And we can all get along.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that they're doing well, is kind of levelling the playing field a bit and hitting that middle ground between the two divides. Mm-hmm. It's like they've got monos and wraps for the people who want to do that and want to use a squat bar and deadlift bar, and compete drug untested. And then they've got the other side.
They're trying to appeal to everyone.
Yeah.
Which is great. So you make your choice for what you want to do. It doesn't make a difference to us. With running a comp, for me, the drug tested, it doesn't make a difference for me with the equipment for single ply or raw. I just have to announce that you have to walk out squats, whereas like in knee wraps and single ply, I think that they wouldn't have to if I did have a mono.
Yeah.
But raw has to.
Yeah.
Like sleeves has to walk it out.
Yeah.
And they're hitting every market. Like, it's a good decision financially to have something for everyone.
Yeah. I think that and it's like, obviously powerlifting since its inception has been fractured. There's so many feds. There's always been so many feds. I guess there was a time in Australia where it was pretty much
I think it was just PA, yeah.
Yeah, it was PA for ages, but at least...
Or whatever it was called before.
Yeah. Whichever iteration of a name and A's and P's in whatever order, because like if you can start a powerlifting fed in Australia, it has to have a P and an A at some point. But at least around the world, there's always been a lot of feds, particularly in America. There's lots of fracturing there. And it largely seems to be like, for ages it was, all the IPF bodies were good. They were pretty unified until the IPF started kind of screwing it all up for everyone. Seems like a lot of, and I don't want to get into the ins and outs, but everyone seems to crave unity. Like we all want to be together and compete together. We don't want this fracturing. Like I know for me, I want to compete where I've got other people to compete against. And if that means going to a different fed, then I go to a different fed.
I just wish it was all in one. I wish we could just have one.
Yeah.
Than you do, or one untested and one tested, so that it wasn't so watered down.
Yeah.
I feel like back at the start, you could truly say you were a national champion.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I truly was the national champion of juniors under 72s. Truly was. But now it's like we did a comparison of where Jo would have placed in the APA nationals and she still would have been second.
Yeah.
She was second in APL. Do you know what I mean? But would have been third if it was merged.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I think that's one thing that like Marcos is trying to do with Pro Raw, particularly introducing the sleeves division and the sleeves walked out division of Pro Raw, which I don't know if you know much about.
No.
So Marcos is the owner of GPC Australia, and he runs Pro Raw every year. Has done for we're up to 14 years, I think he's been doing it, something like that. And it was unsanctioned, best of the best.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's good.
And I think like 3 years ago maybe, added a sleeves division to try and get some of the best of the tested lifters.
They weren't allowed.
Yeah. So like JP Couchy did it 1 year and he was in between feds, but like obviously Article 14 in the IPF prevents everyone from doing that, even if it is unsanctioned.
But the thing is, in America, they used to go between feds. So I think this is only a recent rule change. Like Australia were just saying they made it up.
Yeah. Well, it seems like the rule actually is like a bit more vague, and then how it's being enforced in Australia is a bit stricter.
And it's ridiculous because they're also saying that coaches can't coach elsewhere. And it's like, this is my business. Well, who are you to tell me how I make my money? Yeah. That's none of your damn business. Yeah. And if I was to sue, I would win. You can't tell me like that I can't coach someone who's on drugs. Like that's none of your freaking business what I do.
Yeah, I think the logic leap on that one's bizarre.
I think they are getting sued actually at the moment.
Right.
Yeah.
So I remember reaching out to you ages ago because you were looking out for spotters for equip nats you had or equip states, and I'm like, can people from other feds come and help? And you're like, unfortunately, no.
Yeah, I know. It made it really hard to get volunteers.
Yeah.
Like I had a volunteer at Strength Public once who everyone was like, that man's on steroids. It's like, he's not competing though. So why do you care?
Yeah.
And he wasn't competing in any federation. He was just helping. And it's like, I'm trying to get people to help. They're giving up their free time.
Yeah.
Like, it's not your business what they do in their own time. They're just helping.
Yeah. So I think one of the hardest things running any powerlifting meet is getting enough people to bloody help do it. Like, and keep you safe while you're lifting maximal weights. Like, you shouldn't care who that person is, as long as their intention is just to help you stay safe and do a good job. Like, good help's hard to find, as they say.
That's strong gut too.
Yeah. So you're injured at the moment, your hip's playing up. What does your path back to lifting look like at the moment?
My SI joint. So it's not quite my hip. So the joint connects the hip to the spine. Mm-hmm. So it was very odd because I didn't know how to rehab that. So I've got Jess Wright wrote me a program, and I'll just trust whatever she says. Yeah. Yeah. I had a cortisone injection last Tuesday, which has calmed it down a lot. It's not 100%. I can still get pain every now and then, but the muscles around it are really tight. So it's like, am I just confused with the tightness with this pain?
Sure.
So I'll just follow whatever she gives me.
Yeah. Are you seeing it flare up in certain circumstances?
Benching, yeah.
Benching?
Yeah, benching. And
like the angle you have to have your hip on to get your feet flat, is that why it flares up?
Well, I don't have to have my feet flat. It's just a pelvis tilt. Is doing it. And
so you got a flat back bench?
Somewhat, yeah. Yeah. Just not too much of an extension, but Yeah, right now I'm parabenching.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably come from extending in the squat, which is how I actually did the bulging disc.
Yeah, okay.
It's just a flaw that I have.
Mm-hmm.
I let go and extend and twist.
Yeah.
So this is going to happen.
And that was an equipped squat, you said?
2020.
Yeah.
The bulging disc was,
Yeah.
it's just from me extending at the top. It was squat 200. I was maxing out.
Yeah.
I was right at the top as well.
So so when you locked it out, your pelvis came under and just it put extension through the lower back? Is that what happened?
Yeah, just before lockout.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it was that bad that like I would turn my head. I'd turn my head and have nerve pain across the lower back.
Yeah.
So not sciatic pain. This is why I knew it wasn't the same as the old injury. It's something different and very weird, and I didn't know how to fix it.
Yeah.
So I just avoided it for a while, and it wasn't getting any better. So that's where I went to Jess and then went to a sports doctor, and probably left it too long.
Have you had many major injuries before this?
Labral tear. Mm-hmm. So my whole left side's screwed.
Yeah, there's usually one side. There's like one
well,
side of my
see, I
body's
had the
fucked. So
inguinal hernia on the left side, which wasn't from lifting. It was when I was having my hiatus. And then labral tear on the left side, and I'm like, are they connected? And then a back injury on the left side, which it would be connected to the hip. But yeah, I've had cortisone twice in my hip, so I rehabbed that. And then the back injury was brutal, like rolling out of bed, brutal, like real bad. Yeah. So I'm not scared.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
did you get injured as a kid playing sport at all?
Lots of ankles.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you've kind of dealt with it a little bit in terms of a resilient kind of approach to
and
dealing with injury.
Last year, the worst thing happened ever. After I ran the first comp of the gym, I went into early labour and come back from that. You know what I mean? Nothing's going to be worse than that.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm more resilient.
Yeah. So
that's why I'm not very empathetic either.
Yeah.
It's just like
because you can. I've been to the bottom.
Yeah.
Of the barrel, so I know.
Yeah.
Anything else is better than this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that, and like you see a lot of people come into the sport and get injured and leave. They're just done. That's it. They don't know how to deal with the injury. They don't know how to turn that resilience on to turn it into something positive. I think that's the biggest thing the sport and training in general teaches anyone is the ability to persist. That's why why my whole thing is persistence, right? That's the biggest lesson I've learnt from training, and I think that regardless of the circumstance, whether it's as horrible as yours or it's as minor as tearing a pec, like having a minor pec tear that just is strained for a couple of weeks, the ability to like turn that into like, how do I get through this? That translates outside life.
Training was how I got through it.
Yeah.
I went back to work 2 days later because I'm not going to cry in a hole.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to get through it if I do that.
Yeah.
So you could turn to other things like drugs and alcohol or depression, which I definitely have PTSD from it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's why I did that comp in August where I didn't do very well. I me-directed coach and then competed. Yeah. Did pretty good squat. It was only 5 kilos below my max, but it was just after his due date. Yeah. So just needed a goal.
Yeah.
It was just, that's the thing with lifting. You always have a goal, especially competing. You always have a goal.
Well, it's kind of the old adage that the best way out's through. So you can sit in it and wallow, or you can put your head down and go forth.
And I don't have the option, like we accidentally got pregnant. I found out 8 days after opening the gym. Yeah. I'm like, Jim, I was breathing a lot of paint. Like, so that whole unexpected, that was tough because I'd spent all my money on the gym.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I do not have the option to go cry in a hole. I have to keep going to work. Yeah. So I had 2 weeks off training, but I went straight back to work and then got into it. Yeah. Which was the only good part of my life was training. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's like our job's a little bit different too because we get human connection in a meaningful way apart from just sharing office space. I think that like you end up being lumped if you're working in an office, and I've done many of this, so I'm not speaking from no experience. I've done a lot of office work where you're just friends with these people that are you just lumped with, right?
Oh, my clients got real upset.
Yeah.
They were with me from the start, you know.
Yeah.
They knew
But
pretty early.
Our clients as coaches are like, they're not just people that we train.
Yeah, but also we do have to look a little superhuman. You feel that?
Yeah.
I have to go back and I can't show I'm weak.
Yeah.
Like, because we're supposed to be up here because we tell them what to do.
But did you see, like, it's almost like a bit of fake it till you make it idea? Like, you've gone, even when in your weakest, most vulnerable point, where everyone would forgive you for...
Yeah, I didn't cry at the gym.
Yeah, but everyone would forgive you if you did.
Yeah, that was the only time I didn't know, so that was good.
Yeah.
Like, it was the only good part of my day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've kind of gone there as like I have to be this person here. And then you've gotten to a point where it's actually helped you through it.
Yeah, but I think as well, like, I didn't have a good childhood either. So the sport was like the release.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's always been like that.
Yeah.
So I can switch it off.
Yeah.
I know how to switch it off so I can go to work or I can go and train.
Yeah.
So I'd already been primed for that. Just like, yeah.
So it's the place that it's the happy place.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it's it's more than that in that it's like this positive kind of vehicle to drive you forward.
And you know, it makes you feel better. That's the thing with like people's mental health.
Yeah.
Anxiety, depression, they will feel better if they train. They can't help it.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I
you
mean?
have no choice. Yeah.
Yeah,
You do some cardio.
do the work because you will feel better.
Yeah.
It's like, I've had people come off medication, like anxiety medication through training. And it's not like I've told them to. They just were able to because they were training like four times a week and then trying to walk and things on their days off. And they didn't need it because they were getting that, the endorphins that they needed to feel better.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're getting that physical response, but they're also getting this kind of psychological resilience built in that they may not have had before, where they've got a purpose to move forward.
And confidence. Yeah.
Confidence is a big one. Like so many people these days don't have self-confidence. We're overshadowed by social media and like, I don't have that and I don't have this. But you know what you can take control of is get into the gym and like find some purpose through just moving towards something.
And that's the thing with comps that it gives them a purpose too.
Yeah.
So it's like I want them to keep aiming for comps.
Yeah.
Because it gives them something to aim for. Like it gives them a light at the end of the tunnel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's ultimately the only way you can get through half of this stuff that we get lumped with. I had a good friend of mine say to me recently in a very dark time that she was, I'm not going to talk about what she was going through, but she said, no one understands how hard my life has been. I've had this horrible life, and granted, wouldn't wish it on anyone, right? But what I said to her in that moment was that, people's experience of hard is only the hardest thing they've been through. So you've got to allow them to also understand, whilst they may not understand how hard something is for you, you don't conversely understand how hard it's been for them. So like we're all got to meet together and go, okay, look, we've all gone through some shit.
Yeah. I just sort of accepted no one can say anything right to me. No one's going to make me feel better about it. And I have a lot of anger towards the hospital. Like nobody can fix that. No one's ever going to say the right thing. So I've just accepted it, you know. But it's not their fault either.
No.
There's nothing you can say to make it better. So.
But you don't necessarily need someone to fix it either.
No, just let me be angry. I'm allowed to be angry, but I'm not going off at anyone. You know, it doesn't change me what they see. But,
I think that ultimately what that comes down to is like everyone needs to process it. You need to be allowed to feel your feelings.
Yeah.
And if
don't tell me that there's something wrong with me because I'm angry about something horrible. Like
it was like a horrible experience. I should be angry, and it's like, go for it.
Yeah, it's like, it's been a month now. You should be getting over it. It's like,
no, you'll probably like that will be something that lives with you forever.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah,
it'll get easier, no doubt.
And that's okay, and that's what I try and tell people when they come in upset. It's like, that's okay, but we got to keep going. We got to get going now. And let them vent, and then be like, all right, let's start training.
Yeah. Because you can just get stuck.
That's the thing. If you talk about it, you're stuck in it. Yeah,
definitely. So, what is the next step for you now that you're starting to rehab this SI joint issue, the SI issue? You're starting to move through squat patterns. I've seen in your own training using the belt squat a lot to get through those patterns.
I've moved away from that now because I was bored. But Jess has got me doing like zombie squats and parabench, and I've seen that there's trap bar deadlift. So she's sort of moving me towards doing the full movement in a way that makes me have to tuck the hips under, because obviously I'm lazy with that. So my lower abs are not working and my glutes are not firing. My bum is so sore right now from Monday. So Tuesday. She's putting in things to tuck and blah, blah, blah. Like, I'd like to compete again, but, like, more than anything, I want to be a mum. So it's kind of, like, on the back burner. But I'll just rehab this injury and see where I'm at. Yep. Yeah.
And what's next for Newcastle Barbell?
So we've got competition this weekend, Sunday. And then...
what is that? That's an APL
one? APL comp. And then we're going on a field trip to Lift 3 in Tuggerah. 30th of November, I got a bunch of people in that. So then I probably want to run another one early next year. I think I'm just more focused on coaching and meet directing at the minute.
So they run APL as well? They don't run APU anymore? Do they?
They never did.
They never did? Okay. No. Does anyone run APU here?
No one in New South Wales, which is why Max Bridge says come in APL.
Okay, right.
They're called Strength Sports Australia now. They have a kettlebell division.
Oh, okay. Yeah, right. I did see that actually the other day. It came up in my feed as Strength Sports Australia. I'm like, who the hell's that? I didn't follow that. But so APU's that now. Yeah,
Max said they can't find anyone to run comps in New South Wales. So I was like, well, they burn too many bridges.
Yeah. Well, you reap what you sow sometimes, unfortunately. Well, hopefully, and you don't have anything to do with APA, but that's moving forward in place of APU, obviously. And now your main focus is APL and building that up here in Newcastle. So anyone listening, if you're looking to do a tested comp in the Hunter region, Newcastle Barbell.
That's the early next year.
Yep.
Plan probably February, March. We'll try and do one.
And what's the aim for the gym?
We just keep going.
Yep.
Just running comps and just plod along, pays the bills.
Yep.
You know? I've like recently given it a good makeover. And we kind of were forced to when the boxing came, because I was always wanted to build a wall to put the mirrors up on properly and have the dumbbell area sort of on a different angle. And then I just started and I kept going and did the whole gym. I'm always like, the gym makes have a bit of money there, and I see some equipment for sale at a good price. I'm always trying to buy new stuff, but like people have to understand that you can't open with it all. So
that's a process.
And we don't have that many strongmen at the gym, and the ones we do are like real novice level. So it's like if I can get stones that I don't already have, I will. It's just really hard to come across. And we can't afford it. Everything brand new. But like, so I'm always trying to add things as I can. I call it collecting. I'm always collecting things. Like this weekend, one of the lifters was selling on Facebook jammer arms, so I'm getting them. So I'm always trying to do that. I like my spot though. It's nice and big, and 300 square meters is like a lot, really.
It's a big high ceiling too, isn't it? Like
huge. Massive. I guess you could do a mezzanine if it ever got that big, but I doubt it would. Just keep plodding along, keep collecting equipment, keep running comps, keep training people.
Keep getting better. The sounds of it. Right, well, thank you for coming on the show.
That's all right.
Wrap it up there. What is the best way for people to get in contact with you or the gym?
Probably Instagram. Just Newcastle Barbell, one word. Just flick a message if you want to come in.
And if they were going to follow along with your rehab journey and lifting.
Caught us on Instagram.
Check it out. I'll obviously put that stuff in the show notes, how to get in contact with the gym and yourself. But do check it out, and like drug tested in the Hunter region if you want to check that out. Newcastle Barbell early next year, or there's a comp on this weekend, which this will come out afterwards. So unfortunately, you will not see it, but you can see the results of it. But that is a viable option for drug tested lifters in the Hunter region and New South Wales in general, where you actually get drug tested.
Yes, you actually get drug tested.
So top 10% get drug tested, unlike other feds that don't test at all.
Yes.
So when they say they do. Appreciate you coming on today. and jumping in last minute with the scheduling change. I appreciate
good.
that.
I kind of forgot.
Yeah, it's appreciated and awesome to meet you and chat to you and get to know you better. And I look forward to coming down to Newcastle Barbell and checking it out sometime soon. But we'll be a few weeks. We'll be at Walls End Diggers for GPC Nats. So if you're around, you should come over and check out the dark side.
The monos.
We've got a beautiful new mono from Spartan Sheet Metal.
I have seen that.
That and the bench are like probably the nicest mono and bench that I have ever seen. So, if you want to see a work of art in powder-coated steel, they are beautiful. I will say it, Brent, who made them, he trains at our gym, but when I first saw him after they came into the gym, I was like, these are like just magical pieces of equipment. Like the attention to detail and quality, because he's a powerlifter.
Yeah, I have a few homemade things in my gym too by Max. I just wrote MB custom on them because I repainted them because they were old.
That's awesome.
And he just makes them to spec. He was a good welder. And
yeah, I think that's another part of powerlifting that will never die, is that kind of DIY shed culture.
He made me some strongman stuff too, like armors and a frame and anything I need that's metal. I'll be like, do you reckon you could make this? And he'll make it.
Give it a whirl.
Yeah.
That's the way to go. Do it yourself. But thanks for coming on, and thanks for tuning in. Everyone at home listening or watching, make sure you like, subscribe, do all that stuff. Check out our awesome sponsors, Jacked and Juiced, East Coast Apparel, and Hunter Performance Physio. Thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate all the support, and we'll see you next time.